Hello everyone, this is Serious Trivia. Welcome back to another episode of our legendary Luzhu campaign. We pick things up for episode 3 from turn 12 in the spring season of 185. So as we hop back in, we defeated Zhang Bao's main army here in the farmland in Wei. It went fairly well. This is where we defeated Zhang Liang's faction in the first episode, so things are progressing nicely. We also picked up Bravery. We're one away from getting Hail of Arrows to add another very strong weapon to our arsenal. And over here in Liu Yan's skill tree, so he's our heir, so we gotta think about that too. I think the only thing that can give us an extra bonus is the one extra army from Reach. I think that's it. But we would like Night Battle, which we have. Fire arrows on his units, yes, we want that. So let's get that first. And let's see, a couple characters that we don't really care about. We got Lü Shi Chunqiu acquired by owning 2 farm regions. Wait, we had this for a while. How did this not unlock until now? Yeah, we had this and this since turn like 4? But anyways, speaking of these books, let's talk about a book today. And actually, we might talk about 2 books today because the pacing of this campaign is going super fast. And we kind of want to cover all the books during the campaign. I don't want to play extra long just for the purpose of, talking about books if there's nothing else going on in the campaign. We're not going to equip this because the food bonus is not that helpful for us right now. We have plenty of food. We will just continue to go in order. We talked about Chu Ci last time, which is a collection of poetry from the kingdom of Chu, namely from a poet named Qu Yuan. Today we'll move on to a very familiar text, The Art of War. So this is probably the most well-known text of these 20 books. It's very popularized in the West, and I probably don't have to spend as much time talking about it. So this is a book written during the spring-autumn period, so right before the Warring States. So technically, spring-autumn and Warring States is all parts of the Zhou dynasty, which lasted 800 years. It's the first half and second half, and the main difference is the Zhou dynasty was not a centralized government, but a feudalism system with many, many small kingdoms. And in the first period, the spring-autumn period, there was over 100 kingdoms, and as you shifted to the warring state, the centralized Zhou government became super weak, and there were 7 very strong kingdoms that rose up, and there were small kingdoms at the time still, but mainly there were 7 very powerful kingdoms, and they fought each other for dominance. And in the end, Qin won and united all of China and formed the first centralized dynasty in Chinese history, which is the Qin dynasty, and brought China on a path toward having these very highly centralized governments. No more feudalism after that point. So Art of War is a book written in the first period during spring-autumn when there were many kingdoms, and during this period was the same time as you having the Greek philosophy debates. That sort of birth of philosophy and different ideas was happening in China as well during the same exact time, because there were so many rulers. There were multiple, basically you can think of it as a huge competition to become strong, and because of that, multiple schools of philosophy came out of nowhere to advise the rulers on how to rule. And one of those schools is Bingjia, right? Bingjia. So Jia means a family, but in this case it means a school, a collection of thoughts. And Bing means soldiers. So Bingjia is basically the military school of philosophy. And Bingjia basically promoted the idea that war is a matter of vital importance to a nation. It is a matter of a nation's survival. If you are not strong in terms of warfare and military, then your mere existence falls into danger. And this type of thinking arose because certain kingdoms were encroaching on other kingdoms and, destroying them, basically, absorbing them to create bigger kingdoms, because eventually it shifts from a couple hundred to 7 dominant kingdoms. So that process is ongoing. And in the earlier stage of spring-autumn, because there was the existence of a centralized government, even with feudalism part, right? You had the emperor, or technically he wasn't called emperor, let's call him king, of the Zhou dynasty, which controlled a piece of land that's owned by the imperial family, and then he dished out the rest of the land to all these lords, which creates all these small kingdoms, or you can call them princedom or kingdoms, depending on how you want to, categorize the titles. You can call the Zhou dynasty emperor and everyone else kings, but that's really not the Chinese term. That's more of a translation thing. But all these small kingdoms in the beginning didn't have an incentive to commit all-out war, because the Zhou dynasty, the centralized government, is looking at them. So similar to our game state, right? We have an empire right now. We have the Han Empire governing us as we're their subjects. So technically, if it works beyond a game sense, for me to go to war with, let's say, Liu Chong, there's no advantage, right? We fight a battle, I can't take his land, because if, let's say, I won and I took this land, the emperor will mediate peace and force us to give those land back, because that's land granted by the emperor through his feudalist right? So he has the mandate to say, this land is your land, you rule over this land. And if we have a dispute, we fight for sure over the dispute, and maybe, you pay me afterward, but I can't keep your land. So in that sense, it was kind of pointless to have all-out war. So in the early stages of spring-autumn, warfare was more of sporting game. You can think about it that way, where you send your army out, you march them, line them up, you have rules, you fight, the winner wins pride, wins rewards, and then you go home, right? Perhaps people who are part of these kingdoms are related to each other, because you're probably all relatives of the main centralized government in the first place, or you did something that rewarded you a piece of land. Maybe you helped save their family sometime. That's, Qin basically was a group of horse herders for the Zhou dynasty. And at the time, the capital was closer to Chang'an. And then what happened was the nomads came, attacked them, and the group of horse herders escorted the emperor's family into the interior to a place where they're safe. And then the emperor granted them a piece of land that would start off the Qin dynasty, or Qin kingdom. That's Qin dynasty way down the line. And then basically told them, if they can recover any land that nomads take, it's all theirs. So that's how the Qin kingdom grew. They kind of recover a lot of western land, and eventually they destroyed the Shu kingdom as well. So they expanded quite well out west. But because their branch of the kingdom comes from horse herders, most of the other, big kingdoms or major kingdoms in the east didn't respect them. Thought they were just, barbarians, uncultured people, because maybe some of them come from the actual imperial branch. Maybe they were a cousin or uncle who were granted land to help them rule. So that's the difference. And as the centralized government started to decline into the late spring-autumn period, wars and feuds became more serious, and kingdoms were getting destroyed because the centralized government lost the power to mediate these peace. So at that point, war was no longer a game. But that sort of belief was still, stuck in a lot of these lords' mind, where war is more of a sport, and you had rules and such. And the Art of War is kind of these first books that kind of push the idea that war is a matter of survival, and any means to win a war is justified, right? Appear weak when you're strong, appear strong when you're weak. Use cunning and guile in warfare. It's not a sport. It's not. A good example of this is there was a battle between two lords, and there was a river dividing them. And when the opposing army was marching towards your position and they're crossing the river, the lord on this side says, it's not honorable to hit them when they're crossing. And eventually this side lost the battle and retreated back, but he was very happy because he felt like he was the more honorable side. And in the Art of War, basically Sun Tzu wrote the Art of War and said, that's stupid. When the enemy is crossing the river, that's exactly when you want to hit them, because they can't fight back at that point. So that type of school of thought was passed on in the Art of War. Art of War has been modified throughout history. Even Cao Cao himself kind of codified it a little bit. You have to think about it. Art of War is a very, very old text. Spring-autumn period, it's predates, Song Ci, the book we talked about last time. We're talking about 300 BC, 400 BC, that period. And for Kongzi himself, coming up with all these, not Kongzi, Sun Tzu himself, coming up all these philosophies doesn't mean you get accepted by your local kingdom. He's from the kingdom of Qi, which comes in this area, and his own king didn't like his teachings, and he had to wander around in different kingdoms, and eventually he found himself in the kingdom of Wu, where there was this switching of the kings. There was a political infighting, it was a coup, and he had an opportunity to help the new king. He was recommended by Wu Zixu, another guy who believed in his ideas, and then he put his practice, his ideas into practice, and helped a very weak kingdom of Wu to become very strong and eventually destroy their neighbors Yue. And that's why Sun Jian's clan claims they're from the descendant of Sun Wu, or Sun Tzu, the author of the Art of War, because eventually Sun Tzu settled here in this area, and there was a lot of clans who has this surname. You can't verify it. When Sun Jian's claiming this, there's a chance he's related, but it would be super distant and without any records. 600 years has passed. How do you know? That type of situation. But that idea basically would have a huge impact on how warfare is conducted going into the later periods of the warring states. And this book has been studied by all these generals. I mentioned Cao Cao codified it a little bit. So the original text, at least the history record says that he wrote 13 chapters, presented to the king of Wu, and later on expanded it some more to explain how to apply different military situations. And at the height, I think there was like 83 chapters, but that massive amount of text is lost. But there were always these generals through different periods of Chinese history who try to find as much of this manual as they can and apply it to the modern day warfare technology. So even Cao Cao himself would find all these pieces of the Art of War and codify one that would be his annotated version of it. So we mentioned all these scholars, managing these libraries. It's not just a collecting thing. It's more like you have to verify things are right, verify it's complete, add your own annotation to it. And that's why these guys are scholars. And even for generals, they would study these war manuals and they would modify it. And there's a Cao Cao version of the manual. There's other famous general versions of the Art of War. And today there is just basically this codified 13 chapter version that you can buy in store. It's translated all over the world. I mean, famous generals even beyond China, it's the oldest war manual in the world and probably the most read one. Napoleon read it. Just think of the famous general in your country. They probably have read The Art of War. It's a philosophy on how to approach warfare more than just a playbook of how to fight. So that's kind of this book. We'll talk about another book at the end of the episode. We'll space these out as we should take our turn. It's spring. We get to pick a reform. I really want Administrator, even if it would delay my Onyx Dragon Rush. We're 1, 2, 3, 4 reforms away from getting Onyx Dragon, which is actually pretty fast. But getting this one doesn't help us that much. We don't have any access to Silk or Spice. 25% trade is good, but not game-changing. This is nice, but we don't really have money for buildings. So I think we just pick up Administrator real quick. And it also opens this up, which is a level 4 administrative office, which gives us the fervor reduction, and also in Mandate of Heaven it gives peasantry income. Only in Mandate of Heaven does they give peasantry income. So this only really applies to 182 starts in terms of strategy. So we'll pick that up and we will put Administrator in, I think, Henei, because that's where our base is. And I think our purpose is just to make things cheaper. So I think we're just going to use Huang Fusong. Although Fuxi, oh, he's really bad. Hang on a second. So he has 7%. That's not too bad. Better than this. What happened to his expertise? So I think what we will do is we'll cancel this and let him come out and be the Administrator, because that way we approach the bottom of the skill tree as well, get the industry boost, and then get extra food. Yeah, he has pretty decent expertise that we can even improve. Alright, that's the game plan. And then maybe Xunyo can do some assignment to level up real quick. Because we need, you know, maybe night battle and everything for him. Alright. I'm very hesitant to upgrade Wei. Because I'm worried that Yuan Shao will come claim it. I don't know how the event chain works. But Anping we can build up. I think we want to reduce fervor whenever we can, even though it's kind of difficult just because all the neighboring commanderies are not working with us here. Alright, so that's all good. I think that's all we can really do. Yeah, we're hesitant on upgrading this, so we're not going to touch it. And I don't think there's any generals that are interesting enough to recruit. Any deals? Han Sui? I mean, the game doesn't classify them as rebels, but as we mentioned, Han Sui and Ma Teng's group would end up betraying Geng Qiu's army, or Geng Wu's army. Geng Qiu. Yeah, it's one of the general's inspectors out west, and eventually indirectly caused the death of Fu Xi, who is in our faction. But we are not going to mind that at this point, as we just desperately want cash. There we go. Wow, 10.2. That's a lot. I doubt he'll give me 2,200. Oh, I am wrong. I am very wrong. There we go. And I think there's another one, Dongzhuo, giving us 7.0. So, Lu Zhi and Dongzhuo, not exactly rivals in this case. I mean, Lu Zhi stood up to Dongzhuo when Dongzhuo tried to take over, but Lu Zhi got fired by Dongzhuo, and then when he was leaving the capital, Dongzhuo tried to assassinate him, but he escaped. That's a different story. If we get there to where the empire start getting dissolved, I'll share that story. But I feel like Dongzhuo's main hate is on Huang Fusong, who keeps replacing him and do better than him. Lu Zhi is someone he replaced, and he failed, but he wouldn't blame Lu Zhi for that. He blames Huang Fusong, who takes over after him and succeeds. But he's willing to pay us 188 per turn. We'll take it. Alright, so there we go. We got all that done, and I think we can just end turn here. Alrighty, so we're going to set up the administrator first. And we're going to appoint him, I think, again, for the mustering. And we get this army out on the field. The problem is, I think our new administrator has the -1 mustering, or the +1 mustering. So maybe we want to do it here. But population is lower, so replenishment is slower. Right, we get 4% bonus here. Alright, we're still going to do it here. And then we'll summon the other 3 this turn, all 3 of them. He can lead. That's expensive. And we don't want the units. We'll give them something else. One big problem right now with this group is they're all lower than level 3, so we can't use any of our faction unique stuff. Yeah, but we should be okay. It's a pretty decent group. High quality generals that surprisingly get along with each other, unlike our first group here. Yeah, we're not upgrading this. This is going to get a rebellion. We might as well march back this way, although we'll let the rebellion start, and this group can actually go wipe it out. Right, that's perfect. So they're resummoning an army. Right, so I guess we'll use this group to hunt down some rebels, because fervor is just really high. We just gotta have to fight these rebels anyways. And that way we can level them up along the way as well. Alright, nothing else we need to do. Any other diplomacy deals we can throw in here? Okay, for once we can't do anything, so let's continue. A cunning scheme. This is a cunning scheme? I think Cao Cao did this, but this is a good one. Thank you. He used it on us. He used the positive scheme on us. Okay, unless they have items. Oh, that bugged out. They don't. Okay, so we're gonna pass on them. Alright, let's do them first. We can delegate these rebels. Ooh, items. Professional instructor. Okay. Thank you. Extra experience. So that's a follower item that gives authority and instinct. Well, he's our heir, so take the authority boost. Can we reach? No, we can't. Okay, that's fine. Time to finish off. Oh, Ding Yuan's gonna help us. Is Lu Bu with him? He didn't bring Lu Bu. Lu Bu was starting his faction. Ding Yuan was Lu Bu's adopted father in the romance, but in history, just the boss. Lu Bu was his secretary. Like, legit, his secretary. Which is a key reason why Lu Bu wanted to betray him. Let's not night battle this, just so that we get the reinforcement and see how they charge in. I don't even know if they'll help us. Actually, I don't really want their help. They're gonna just steal my experience. These are all our experience. Yeah, we don't need their help. We're gonna fight this ourselves. Alrighty. So we get the nighttime bonus of morale debuff. We get flaming shots. We get fire flamethrowers, which has proven to be very fun to play with, and we have fire arrows now. And we get a hill. What else can we want? Maybe some duels for Huang Fusong to level up. I think that's something we would need. Let's put these a little bit closer. You guys would be their bodyguards. That's not very well done. That's still not very well done. I think the spacing on the mountains kind of messed. Oh, there we go. That's a good one. You guys don't move either. I think they do have some cavalry, but our front line's pretty solid. You use your bow. Fire! Oh, the reload time took too long. Only the shots that are short are gonna... Actually, that's a pretty decent hit. Oh, they have bows. Let me kill you first. Look at the morale. Alright, here comes the cavalry. Let me give them a boost. They're not gonna make it. How are you doing? Almost won? Okay, we'll grab another duel right after. I think it's her that's going to duel. Alright, grab her. Yeah, time to charge up the hill, my friends. There's a barbecue up the hill. Yeah, the cavalry's frozen because they don't know how to approach us because they see our spear units on the side and they just know, oh, here it comes. Oh, they're dead. Holy. Actually, no more microing. Just do it yourself. No one can get up this hill. Dude, they can't. They like. There's no openings. Oh my god. Get back on your horse. Oh. Okay, you might think we're a little bit overly cruel, but when Huang Fusong won the final battle against the Yellow Turbans, he created what's called a Jingguan, which is a mountain of bones, just skulls stacked into a mountain. Yeah, it's just a statement. You know, if you try to overthrow the kingdom or dynasty, there's a price to be paid for that type of betrayal. They're already dead. Don't shoot them anymore. Good, smart. These guys left. There's no future here. Alright, white. Alrighty. So I think we burned 2 of our turtle formations by accident. Like there's a shrub or something nearby. But I think, yeah, 2 of them died. They didn't kill anyone. They'll heal up during the end turn, so no problem. And now there's only 1. There's only Zhang Jiao. Alright, the dueling gave us good experience boost, so now we also have Hail of Arrows on top of that. We're probably going to end up going for precision just to increase the armor piercing damage of our troops, although we don't have that many troops that uses range. Right, so maybe we don't need that. Maybe just patience for better capture rate, and then we'll let him lead. He can probably give himself Mighty Knockback as well. There's not many things we need on the skill tree at this point. Like, Hail of Arrows was really the last thing we wanted. Alright, we got ourselves some more food, and we're going to be marching to Zhongshan, and then Yanmen, and then if we can get the horse pasture, that'd be great too. That'd be a nice collection before Liu Bei steals it. It's now a battle of grabbing resources before the war ends. Ooh, picked up a bunch of... We picked up this from the fight Zuozhuan as well. Okay. That is not the book we're talking about at the end of the... We're going in order. Let's see. Twin Marshal Ji. Oh. Who can use that in our faction? No one. Because we don't have any more sentinels or commanders. So I think he should go for flexibility and reach. Not only is it good for leading armies in the future, but also he's probably going to become part of the faction, like prime minister role, if we get that. So that's probably what we're aiming for. Yeah, we've seen all this. Yeah, no one can use the weapon. The weapon's only Huang Fusong, basically. for shock and melee cavalry. Charge bonus. I guess we'll just stick to the charge bonus. We'll eventually get another sentinel. Yeah, they can't use it. He can only use swords. He can't use it. And they can only use swords. Oh, he can use... Wait, can he use this? No way. Yeah, he can't use that. We forced the flip as an auto equip. That's fine. He can switch weapons. Which one is better? Well, I think the axe is better. It's just more damage. Right? Armor piercing 1.2k. Sure, you lose 9 expertise, which kind of sucks in terms of melee evasion, but we have ability that makes up for it. Like, not a huge difference. 45 versus 18 points down. Yeah, we'll check it out. I still think it's about this. I think the better damage is better. Anyways, it's not that much better or that much worse, so we're fine. We'll upgrade these stuff. We have enough to upgrade for another building slot to build. Ooh, probably an inn. This would be our income place, wouldn't it? Yeah. Yeah, let's splurge and get that upgrade going. Alright, we're good to go. Let's continue. Wang Shao got destroyed. Who got him? Oh, the Han Empire did. Okay. We see you. So we're gonna get the showdown already. I mean, he's still gonna summon himself back. But I guess if not us, then who, right? We're kind of leading the charge here. I'm gonna start turning these. Actually, we should turn this one first because the difference is much. Oh, we don't have the reforms? We don't have the reform. I guess I'll keep theirs. Better for population growth for a little bit until we get the reforms, I guess. I don't know if we're gonna go down the green tree though. Should I delete this and maybe build a state workshop instead? Debatable. Ooh, that's a lot of items. Can we delegate a win against that? I'm not sure actually. I know I can fight that and win. Alright, so that could be the worst case scenario. Us fighting it and winning it. Ah, but the AI agrees that this is a piece of cake. Let us capture him. Nope. Those items are going back to the Ultimate Rebels. Ah, picked up Reach. That's nice. So I think we're gonna recall them to heal them. They're both kind of a little weak. And then he will stay on the field. Actually, no. Yeah, he will stay on the field. Because I think a rebel spawning here, which is close enough for them to go pick it off. And then 2 turns they'll be spawning here. Yeah, there's just gonna be a lot of rebels for a while. Fervor is dropping. Good. Fervor... neighboring counties. I can't fix it for the AI. Okay, so he's okay. Who's passing it on to him? This? Like, we just have to keep cleaning them out. Basically, the developer described this as like a bucket of water. Like, once somewhere hit 100, it starts spreading to nearby ones, and then just spread. And we have to curb it back, right? The neighboring one's gonna compound the effect, so we need to like beat it back. Right, I'm still not gonna upgrade that one, and I think we're fine. There's probably not much to do here. I'm not gonna do a deal with Zhang Jiao. I'm gonna wipe him out. Let's go. Let's fight. They have a big army. They have one really good cavalry unit, double size cavalry unit with a lot of health, very strong unit. Chosen of the Immortals, very high morale, very good damage. The rest of the army is pretty bad, and we probably can do both of them and kill both of them. So let's go. Alrighty, so we ended episode 1 with a showdown with Zhang Liang, episode 2 with a showdown with Zhang Bao, and now episode 3 with a showdown with Zhang Jiao. So we're making the rounds with the brothers. We have the high ground here, which is really lovely. Do I want to use this forest for some more burning effect? We could do that. We could set it up so that the forest can be lit up as they show up to us, because we have a lot of fire options. Okay. That range is a little short, but that's fine. So maybe we don't want the forest. So let's lock that formation and just move that over here maybe. Then we just want the high ground, I think. Let them march towards us, and then we pound them, and then we burn them. We'll modify these as they approach us when we figure out what type of, you know, approach they're gonna do. Oh, hail of arrows! Okay, maybe we don't duel first. We blow half of their army first. And if the cavalry comes towards us, we'll pick up a duel. Is there an invisible unit here? Why is there a gap? Do they have invisible units? I don't think Zhang Jiao has invisible units. Only the Yao Guai hunters are invisible in the Yellow Turban roster. I mean, stock. It's not magic. They're just really good at hiding, apparently. Come on. Why did we only fire one? Okay, it's fine. I'm gonna assume it's disruption. We'll have to wait. Wow, they're rotating the whole army towards us. I'm not that interesting, my friends. Oh, the last one didn't go out either. It's supposed to be 4 volleys. What happened to the 4th one? But we're murdering people here. This skill is just ridiculous. They're gonna bounce back. The morale's not that bad. We'll let them form a line. Or maybe I don't let them bounce back. I'm gonna just charge them. Oh, we got cavalry on us, which means it's time to... Is it time to duel? Alright, it's time to duel. I don't think he used it. Oh, he has to die, right? No, this is just the active one. He doesn't have the dying one? Don't kill him too fast, or else it's gonna be very hard to get back on our horse. Oh no, those cavalry are just waiting here. Oh no. Get off of us. Ma Yuanyi, we'll fight you. And Ma Yuanyi is a very important character in the Yellow Turban Rebellion. He was in charge of, training a lot of the rebels in the Yang province. And he was in charge of leading the southern Yellow Turban believers into the areas around the capital to facilitate the final attack. So he had a very important role. But unfortunately, Tang Zhou's betrayal kind of told the Han kingdom that, or the Han government, that he was in charge, and he got 车裂, which is you tie his head, 2 arms and 2 legs to ropes, and the ropes are connected to a horse, and you get the horses to run in 5 directions, and your body gets split, and that's 车裂. And that's why he's the hippophobe in the game. I'm sure we'll give him a much more pleasant death. Which one's our horse? This one. Oh, we took his head off. Hey, it's only 1 limb instead of all 5. Get back on our horse. Get back. Ignore the troop. Get it back. Get on. Get on. Alright, then we just charge out. Doesn't matter how much health we lose. We get melee evasion and we just go, go, go. Zhang Jiao's not going to want to do... Oh, does he? Run them to the center of our formation. I'll turn that off. It's not gonna do a lot of damage to them though. Missile resistance plus they're kind of scattered. We'll just let them see our units. Should I fire? Yeah, actually I can fire them. Here. Just let them know what's up. That's right, don't chase me anymore. Alright, we're gonna go back and harass. We still have 2 shots. Getting pretty accurate. We can fire across like this. Not bad. These 2 routed. We'll save the ammo for them. Fire! You guys saw nothing yet. Are they moving up? Is it just no? We're uphill. Yeah, we're fine. Kind of whiffing, but that's okay. It's all about letting them know where we are so they actually walk towards us. I'll try to shotgun him in the face, see how much damage I can do. Alright, we gotta time his charge correctly. Okay, it's a little bit difficult because he's charging us a little bit too early. Any chance we can do it now? It canceled. We're now just in the fighting animation, which I don't want to be in. I guess we'll have... I really want to shotgun him though. How fast is he? 97? Same speed as us. Oh, oh. Oh, come on. I think it's the horse spinning animation messing it up. Alright, we're just gonna go back. It's okay. His bow can go after him. Man, they haven't even made it to the flamethrowers yet. Juggernaut. How much shot do we have? 5 left? Okay, that's plenty. Let them regroup a little. They lost vision, basically. The fog is so thick that they can't see us. Until a big fiery rocks comes right at them. That just missed them perfectly, although the fire is burning that one. Alright, they see the units now. Are you in range? Yes, you are. Watch this. Pew! Oh, come on, you can do better than that. There we go. Oh, not very accurate. Oh, there we go. 1.6 per shot? Oh, he's dead. 2 more shots. That's a miss. That's a miss. Oh my god. That's a hit. 1 more hit. Haha! We did it, Emperor. I killed him personally. Ooh. Got 1 good hit there. Ooh, okay. That's a good one. Alright, they're done. Charge, whatever those wooden things are. No clue. Never seen them in our lives. They're smoking. Whoa! Holy. This is where you run. Don't be this brave. POV of fanatics. Charge. Charge for our beliefs. Stay away from those things. They're weird. Oh my god. Okay, this is my new favorite front line. Anyone else? That's right. That's what I thought. Alrighty, so it's 1 Zhang brother per episode, and Zhang Jiao's army is wiped. We'll be taking his land soon, and yeah, try to grab as many as we can and then go fight the bandits. So we'll use that as our save point, but we'll talk about a couple more books. It seems like we have unlocked a few more books as well. 5 military supply of Wei not that useful. Extra morale for infantry, also not that useful. The next book we'll talk about is actually after the Art of War, is the book of Lord Shang. So in Chinese, this is called Shangjun Shu, Shangjun or Lord Shang. is not any king or emperor. It's actually a prime minister for the Qin dynasty. So his name is Shangyang, and he's responsible for the rise of Qin, for the Qin to become the most powerful of the 7 kingdoms, to eventually unite all 7. He did a lot in terms of setting up the structure, the political structure, the society structure as a prime minister. And he was a legalist. So we're talking about different schools of ideas being born in the spring-autumn period. We talked about military school, 兵家, from Art of War. So Shangyang represents 法家, or the school of law. So law and order. So believed in what we call them legalist or legalism, I think today in terms of philosophy. And there's others. There's so many during this period. Chinese call this the time of 百家争鸣. The fight, direct translation would be 争鸣 is when birds gather up and chirp together to fight to see who is the loudest. And that describes 百家, or 100 different school of thoughts, fighting to see whose voice is the loudest, who's the most correct. And it was during this period that you had the birth of Confucianism, you had the birth of Taoism, birth of legalism in China, birth of militarism in a sense with 兵家. And there's also 墨家. There's a bunch of different schools, and they have each their own thoughts and how you should run a country, how you should live your life, and all sorts of things like that. And the book of Lord Shang is a book that writes how to run legalism using Shangyang's changing, or his revolution within the Qing kingdom, as an example. So it's like a case study of how to apply legalism to your kingdom or your country or your whatever political structure you're using. And legalism worked really, really well in the early periods of the Qing kingdom, leading to its success to the Qin dynasty, but it ultimately failed during the Qin dynasty, leading to rebellions, ending the dynasty in 2 generations, 16 years. And because of its failure, it was kind of abandoned. Legalism was thrown out. And in the early periods of the Han dynasty, the approach was Taoism. So Taoism was kind of the approach that they used in the early periods of the Han dynasty. And then it shifted towards Confucianism, which is 儒家. Everyone has 家, a school of thought. And Confucianism basically took over around the time of Liu Xiu, I think Han Wudi, and it pretty much continued afterward. And if you want to think, you're wondering, like, Taoism is a religion, how do you run a country on religion? It's not a faith thing. It's not Yellow Turban religion. Taoism in the beginning was a philosophy, much like Confucianism, much like legalism. And the belief of Taoism was kind of like laissez-faire, invisible hand. There's a natural way in the world. Tao, or Dao, means the way, right? Which means the world has a way of running itself. As an emperor, you don't need to do much, right? It's almost free market if you want to apply it to economy, but it's applied to a much broader sense of just nature, how to rule people, how to run different things. So basically, it's kind of a hands-off approach. Wu wei, right? Doing nothing is the correct thing for the emperor to do, right? He can only mess it up by applying different measures, and that's the Taoist idea. And Confucianism is a different idea of running the country, sort of like running a family. There's love for your parents, filial piety is a big belief, and in the grander scheme, there's the love for the Lord, and it's more clan-based, right? It understands that you're going to love your clan more than you love a different clan. That's okay. That's Confucianism. Not the entire thing, but in general, especially if you compare it to something like 墨家. And 墨家's belief is called 兼爱, which is equal love for everyone. And, it sounds crazy, but 墨家started by 墨子, right? These school of thoughts usually named after the person who founded them, actually practiced this during the spring-autumn period where kingdoms would go to war with each other, and he would try to stop these wars. He would go to the country who's on the attacking side and be like, we can help the defending side defend and defeat you. So it's better if you don't fight, right? Have love for everyone. You might think of them as like peace, like kind of But they're not like, peace loving, I guess, just peace loving people. What they are is like, Mozi was a very famous inventor himself. It's a school of engineering, really, and they built all these siege weapons in terms of offense and defense, and they used it to stop wars, right? It's almost like we have nukes now, so we don't go to wars. Mozi basically invented a bunch of siege weapons and then went to the attacking sides like, I have this, you can't beat me, so we should peace out. That was kind of Mozi. But Mojia never really took off because having equal love for everyone in a period where you have hundreds of kingdoms where people had sense of, identity issues, right? You felt like you belonged in this kingdom, so you loved your kingdom more than other kingdom. That was normal, that's part of human nature in a sense, and that's what Confucianism kind of captured in a sense, because you had people like Qu Yuan who wrote, Chu Ci, who jumped into a river to suicide when his kingdom fell, instead of living under as a civilian to another kingdom, even though his kingdom didn't even love him. Qu Yuan wasn't well used. He was promoting to ally Chu with Qi to fend off against Qin, but the emperor didn't listen to him and actually fired him. So he didn't get value in his own kingdom, but he still loved his kingdom to the point where his kingdom fell and he was suicide for his kingdom. So that just goes against like Mojia's idea. But enough about all these different schools. If we have a chance to talk about them in the future for some other purpose, we will. But for legalism, we'll talk about what this book, or how the Qin dynasty or Qin kingdom actually got strong enough to unite China, right? Legalism was a big pushing part about their structure. We talked about how the Qin dynasty was a bunch of horse breeders in the beginning, and many people from the Eastern Kingdom saw them as barbarians, and that was kind of true. They had very backward cultures in terms of like society structure. People like to fight. It was described that people like to fight among themselves for things, but they don't want to unite and fight other kingdoms in war. It was a very bad incentive structure, and people just didn't have a nice set of law. So early on, Shangyang, when he approached the king of Qin, offered him a different method to become stronger, right? To use maybe Confucian ideas to become stronger. But the time frame for that period was very, very long. And the king of Qin says, we don't have time, to educate the civilians, to tell everyone to have, love for their lord like they love their parents. It takes generations, and that's too slow. He didn't want that. Do you have any way to speed up the process of making Qin stronger? And Shangyang went with legalism. And what he promoted, or what the first thing he did, was he put this big timber, not super heavy or anything, but a giant piece of timber in the south gate of the city, of the capital. And he put a sign out there and says, if you can grab this timber and move it to the north gate, you will be rewarded with 5 pieces of gold, which is an incredible amount of money back then, right? Generational wealth in a sense. And no one believed him, right? No one even went to try. They just looked at it and laughed at it, thinking it's a joke. But then eventually the reward became 10 pieces of gold, and still no one went. And then it became 20 pieces of gold, and then someone went and tried it and lifted the lumber, it's not super big, and moved it to the north gate, and he was rewarded 20 pieces of gold. And basically people clicked that, this new change of law in the country is basically going to run the country as a law-based society. And if the emperor said, or the king, there's no emperor yet, says something, and you do it, you will be rewarded accordingly. And this was applied to their military structure, where you go into battle, you bring back the heads of the enemy. Like, you can think of it almost as scalping, but they will bring back the head of the enemy, and depends on how many you bring back, you get rewarded with different levels of ranking up, different amount of land for your family, different amount of monetary reward. So that made the Qin army really well trained and really fierce in battle, because common soldiers knows now that warfare is a way to advance your family in society, which is not true for many of the other kingdoms, because troops usually come from family of poor, and there's a lord structure, there's a gentry class. You're not gonna break that barrier. And as example to everyone saying that you can break this type of barrier, Shangyang, who is not from Qin himself, was made into a lord, given a bunch of land. That's why it's called Lord Shang. and have this policy. Now, the problem with this policy, as you can probably imagine, is that if you're already in the gentry class, you hate this. Because now, if you want your son to retain the title, because it used to be just generationally passed down, with Shangyang's rule is like, if you're given a title, because a lot of people are going to get titles now, because if you do well in battle, you get titles, you can keep your title for one generation. But if your son's generation doesn't achieve something, the title goes away. So that's applied to all the gentry class who's already, thinking that their title just generation goes on and on. Now their kids had to go out there and battle and fight with, a bunch of farmers who's eager to kill someone to get, a promotion. They have to do the same thing. So they hated this change of law, but it made Qin really, really strong. But once the king who promoted Shangyang died, the son, who had, along with all his relatives, hated Shangyang to the point where they basically executed him. And Shangyang's death is also really, really funny as an example to how well the society adapted to legalism. Because Shangyang was on the run, knowing that he was getting imprisoned and going to get executed, ran to an inn, right? One of these inns in another town. And the inn asked him for his ID, right? You needed traveling ID as part of a law reform that he pushed out. And because he was on the run, he didn't have his ID. So because he couldn't show his ID to the innkeeper turned him away, and then he was captured. And he kind of laughed it off, saying that, his own change of the law is so successful among even, a common innkeeper away from the capital that eventually it'll be his doom, and he got killed. But just because he got killed doesn't mean the son abandoned legalism. The son knew legalism was the correct move. But because they all hated Shangyang so much for pushing all these changes, and he was kind of framed as the scapegoat for all the anger that was built up, that he had to be removed, essentially. And after he was removed, they still kept this system. And the framework of legalism, at least in terms of this philosophy, is that for the country to be strong, the people have to be weak. It sounds really weird, right? But the weak sense here is that the relationship between the rulers and the people is a net sum zero game. That's in Shangyang's belief. So instead of offering rewards, the most effective means is punishment. So he favored heavier punishment as incentive rather than heavier rewards. So in that way, you're weakening your population to strengthen the country. That was kind of the underlying philosophy behind this style of legalism, and it would create incredible achievements in war and military and even construction. The Qin construction of the Great Wall, very high quality. Like the bricks you can take away from those the Great Wall today, you can still see carvings of how many inspectors inspected this brick for quality. They would all have to stamp their name on the brick, and you place it on to ensure the brick is solid quality. It's not like a defective brick. And maybe 4 inspectors would go through it, and then if they discover the brick to be defective, everyone who signed it would get killed, right? Harsh punishment, unreasonably harsh punishment. And Liu Bang, who eventually found the Han Dynasty, was a small sheriff in the Qin government structure. Very, very small. Probably the lowest tier you can have. He was called a Tingjia. And he was responsible for escorting some prisoners. And a few of the prisoners, so maybe he had like 40 prisoners with him, 2 prisoners ran away. And then because these 2 ran away, he knew even if he bring the other 38 to his destination, he was going to get punished very harshly, killed. So he decided at that moment that he's going to free the other 38 too, and then join a bunch of the other rebellions that was happening around the country. Because these punishments became so, incredibly, disproportionate to the crime, that eventually people all rose up and the Qin eventually fell. And this style of legalism kind of went out of favor. There were modified versions of legalism that still happened later on in the Han Dynasty, Li Si in particular, but that's probably another story. But that's this book here. And with that, I think we can end our episode. We beat up Zhang Jiao over here, and we're going to continue to push him down. Hopefully we can grab all of this. Hopefully we can grab the horse pasture. That would be the most rewarding piece in the north. And then we can shift on bandit hunting and rebel hunting. I don't know how the rebels are doing it looks like they're pretty contained. I don't think they have expanded. So maybe it will be a short campaign. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye!